Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the morning show powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. Ooh, electricbikescharleston.com. Hale's fired up for the Ryder Cup. He's got his Masters hat on. What's up, man?
Well, how's it going?
Where are you? You're in a. Are you John Whittling this thing, doing the show from behind a dumpster somewhere in Ohio?
No, fortunately, I'm not in Ohio. I'm in Santee, getting ready to play some golf.
I love Santee. Which course are you playing?
Playing national today.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Santee golf is very underrated. It's awesome.
yeah, I love it down here. It's been a few years since I've been. I got some buddies from college that we do a thing each year, and when I can go, I make it because it's typically during the fall, so we
Well,
can avoid the summer heat. But the summer heat has not avoided us this year.
I know it just so happens that it felt like it was gone, and then now it's back.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for squeezing us in. Yeah, my aunt and uncle used to live on First Street, right off of the lake up there, and not far from what used to be Smith's. Do you remember Smith's, the old gas station that had all the little gadgets and stuff in it, right off 95, off
No, no,
98?
I don't know anything about Smiths, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you spent a bunch of time up there. Enjoy. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you hit it straight. And thanks for not forgetting about us and making it happen here before you get out there on the course, bud.
Of course.
All right. I was just talking with Justin. I think that based on listening to Shane Beamer the other day, Hale, it seems like the time is now that I know that there are some injury bugs going on with the offensive line, and we'll see if they're upgraded, downgraded, status quo, whatever. Case in Henry, Nolan Hay, et cetera. But it does seem like there potentially maybe at running back we could see some different personnel, or at least some increased usage from guys who haven't had as much time this year. What do you make of that?
Yeah, as far as the offensive line goes, it's getting kind of messy to say the least, and I've found it interesting that even with all the injuries and changes they've had to endure to this point in the season, that I haven't heard Shane Beamer or Mike Schuler, for that matter, really mention that. So I guess they're avoiding going down that road as using it as a reason or an excuse, as some would probably prefer to call it, but. Yeah, it's going to be tricky. I think the good thing for Carolina is that Trevon Ball was not on that list this
Mm-hmm.
week, even though he wasn't on it last week and didn't play. So, uh, really interested, like you said, to see how that progresses this week with the next 2 days in the availability report, and ultimately on Saturday when we get to the stadium. So,
Hmm.
yeah, running back as well. I've been pretty consistent saying I like Matthew Fuller every time I see him touch the ball, and he hadn't touched it a ton since he's been at Carolina. But 2 yard.
Oh, we lost Hale. Hale he's on the phone, so he may have received a phone call that bumped him off there. And I think we all agree with Hale on that. By the way, the Matthew Fuller is 5'11", about 220 pounds, and he runs hard and he runs downhill, as we all well know. And he's kind of waited his turn. The interesting thing about the running backs is we'll get Hale back here quickly here in just a second. But the interesting thing about the running backs is that they've got five, and we know that. Um, it has seemed like every time we kind of ask questions or somebody asks questions that there isn't one that's the most complete package on the team. This guy does something better than this guy, and this does something better. This guy does something better than this guy, and this guy does something better than this guy. And we got Hale back here. But Matthew Fuller is, with all the issues they've had in running the football this year, maybe he is the guy from a physicality standpoint who can kind of fall forward a yard or two. But go ahead, man. You finish what you were saying about Mr. Fuller.
Yeah, I was just saying that I've liked what I've seen from him and his limited opportunity since he's been at Carolina, and would be interested to see if he gets more of a workload this weekend.
Yeah, I am too. It's uh, I if you pair that with offensive line changes, you wonder schematically, does it stay the same? Obviously, who knows? We don't know. Nobody's going to tell us that. Hale, it's pointless to even really have some of those conversations and things like that. But you also wonder, with so many of the issues that they've had, like Let me phrase it differently to ask you this. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that if South Carolina's averaging 80 yards per game on the ground, and that number largely influenced by the -9 that they had last week at Missouri, but if you're just asking these guys, hey man, instead of falling behind the sticks, if we could just find a way to grind 1 or 2 yards out, 1 or 2, fall forward, give us something better than 3rd and 10 plus, where do you think this offense would be?
Probably better than what it is. That's not a real hard hitting answer, but my thing, JB, they had three false start penalties last week on first down. And those weren't the first three of the season. They've had several false start penalties on first downs. First downs coming out of timeouts, and they've got a false start. Like that stuff has happened in pretty much every game so far, and that's got to be wildly frustrating for this coaching staff. And I mean, if you're 1st and 15, like at that point, it's like, okay, well, if you want to run the ball on 1st and 15, good luck to you, because then you're going to probably be 2nd and long still, even if it's a pretty decent gain. So it's those just unforced errors largely that have been really, really critical to this point in the season, and really played a large part in it. And to me, why this ground game has had so much trouble getting going, and why the offense as a whole has had its struggles as well, and they still haven't been able to get those things ironed out yet.
I think we could all agree that the best part of the offense this year has been the fact that when Lenore Sellers has time to throw the football, he's pretty good. You know, he can move it downfield. They've thrown the deep ball fairly well, Hale. Just this is more of an opinion question for you, just based not necessarily based on anything that was asked in a press conference, just more based on the results that we've seen through the first 16 quarters of the year. Do you think this, while they want to be stubborn in the run game, we know that they have to run the football at some point in time to some sort of success. But do you think that this offense is better suited just saying, hey, look, this is what we do well. We throw it better than we run it. Maybe that needs to be more of our identity to help this running game get going? Or do you think they need to continue to try to be a little bit more stubborn on the ground?
That's a tough question. I mean, I look back to last week in that game, and they're up in the fourth quarter, and they've made all those mistakes, and done all sorts of stuff that doesn't help you win games, and they're still winning going into that fourth quarter. And I'm kind of the belief is if they could have just been halfway decent at running the ball against Missouri, then maybe that game could have had a different outcome. I mean, when you just become so one dimensional that way, against good teams, and they've got pretty much nothing but good teams left on this schedule, it's going to be hard to win, especially on the road. So,
Oh,
um, yeah, I mean, yeah, you want to be able to move the ball and score points, and if throwing it gives you the best opportunity to do that, then by all means. But there are going to be plenty of times moving forward, and could be again this weekend where they're going to have to run it. They're going to need to pick up first downs on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 or 1st and goal at the 2 yard line. And you got to be able to run the football, man. I mean, it's part of the game, and uh, if you can't do it consistently or well enough, you're going to have a hard time being a good football team. That's just how it goes in the SEC.
on the other side of the ball, clearly last week missed tackles was the name of the game. You want to give credit, no doubt about it, to Hardy and Roberts. They're tough runners, no question about it. But 16 missed tackles is 16 missed tackles. They got to clean that up. Kentucky, we know that they will be stubborn running the football. You can go back, and we're going to go in depth on this tomorrow through the last 4 seasons. The Kentucky offense versus Clayton White, his defense. Gamecocks have done a nice job, obviously, in limiting the points, while the Wildcats only average 12.5 points per game. The yards per carry is something that is big in that building, and they've done a nice job with that overall outside of 1 year under Shane Beamer. But if Gabrielle Brownlow Dindy can't play on Saturday night, that to me is a big, big deal for Gamecock football. How would you describe what he has done thus far this season up front, and what a loss or what losing him would mean to this ball game.
I thought he played really well the other night, especially in the first half. And I can't remember exactly when it was that he had to come out of the game. He was sort of helped off the field by trainers, and I'm pretty sure he came back in. It might have been in the second half, but I mean, in that first half, he was incredibly active. He had a lot of stops, blew up some plays, and allowed other guys to come in and clean it up. And it was funny. Alex and I were kind of laughing. There were a couple of those times, like his helmet would pop off, and he had to come out of the game after making a stop or making a play. And it's like, dang, dude, if you could just stay on the field, like that would be pretty awesome, right? And and by the time they buckled that chin strap up a little tighter, he continued playing well. And I kind of wonder if that was a factor, him being banged up and not 100%. If that, like, if he was healthy and playing like he was in the first half, in the second half, maybe he could have made enough of a difference for that game to turn out differently. So
Hmm.
if he can't go, or if he's not fully healthy on Saturday, which probably won't be since he's on the injury report, that's probably going to be a big deal. He's been, I think he's been pretty good, and especially last week in the first half against Missouri, he made a lot of plays.
Yeah, the hell. The hell, I did laugh the second time that his helmet fell off because he pointed to his chin strap, put his hands in the air like, "What's wrong with this thing?" And I thought,
Yeah,
don't they tighten their own chin straps? Maybe you just need to tighten it up a little bit. I don't know what was going on. Um, but it was kind of funny just seeing the look on his face coming off the field. I think you
mhm.
made a really good point just a minute ago, and we had hit on this earlier in the week, Hale, as well. The Carolina overall last week, outside of some big hitters in the passing game and a couple of plays here and there on defense, it didn't obviously play well. I mean, they committed all these turnovers, they missed all these tackles, et cetera, et cetera, and they had a lead in the fourth quarter to win the game, to win the game. So if you go back to where we thought this football team was before the season, and now that we've seen them for 4 games, and we've heard in between them, in between the start of the season and now almost to the 5th game, we've heard Shane Beamer and the coordinators and some of the players say, we're not as far off as you think we are. It might not look good, and I'm not making excuses, but we're not that far off. Well, we just saw a game where they played, I thought, pretty awful in a lot of different categories, and they could have won the game on the road. And quite frankly, they probably could have ended up winning that game by 7+ points had a couple of things been a little bit better. Do you believe that? Do you think, hey, just a couple of tweaks, they're right back in the thick of this and being able to beat anybody that's left on the schedule?
uh, I wouldn't say a couple of tweaks, maybe more than that, because there's been just a lot of different issues that continue to pop up, and at some point you got to wonder, like, is this just who you are as a football team?
Right.
Uh, but one would think that 3 false start penalties on first down, that's going to stop happening eventually. Um, you, you would think that they'd have some sort of a semblance of a run game going at some point, especially with Lenore Sellers at quarterback. But then again, they have to maybe run him a little bit more to make that possible. And I do think they've got good running backs. So, like, one of those guys is going to get going eventually. But if the offensive line keeps getting hurt, then at what point is that going to be more of a challenge? So
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, people ask me, friends, family, whoever, like, what's going on with Carolina? Why are they 2-2? I was like, and they've just played like crap.
Yeah.
Even in the games they've won, like, we already talked about the Virginia Tech game, how awful they were on offense, and at times just not playing well, just doing stupid stuff. And same with South Carolina State and the Vanderbilt game, of course, last week. I mean, so it's a lot of things they've got to clean up. But to me, I do tend to agree that if you look at each thing individually, it's not a lot. Like, they are close, but it's just there are just so many things again where they're having to get those issues corrected. Where maybe it's not quite as close as I think, because of the cumulative, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. the running of the quarterback thing. I mean, Beamer has been adamant that they have called just as many as they called last year, but the opposing defense is prepared for that. You know, to me that sounds like, okay, we don't know what to do. Like, we don't have a solution to that. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm not saying that they don't, and I'm not saying that they're saying that, but when we've heard it for a couple of weeks. Well, look, they've been prepared for this. I mean, these guys, they've made their adjustments. All right, well, what adjustments are you going to make? Or are you just going to go through this whole year? I guess I'm confused.
Right.
I'll be curious to see if they do plan to run him more, if they just do away with some of that stuff and they just they're just called runs, especially out on the perimeter, out in space. I don't know. I have no idea. But if you want to run him, maybe take the first and second option where you're handing it off or throwing it and just run him and see what happens and just let him be the best athlete that he is. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I agree. Like, I do want to see more design runs for him, but I mean, if we go back to some of his best runs last season, many of them were scrambles and him just doing things on his own. So,
Yeah.
I talked all off season how I thought some of that was overblown with the comments Shula had in December during that press conference and what played out in the bowl game. But yeah, I mean, it's just I get frustrated thinking about the first and 15s because how many of those first and 10s were going to be opportunities for Sellers to run the ball, just straight taking it himself. And they're football analytics folks, and I'm not one of those because I'm not smart enough to be one. But there are a lot of football analytics folks who think running on first and 10 is just the dumbest thing possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine that they think running on first and 15 is smarter. So like you're just handcuffing yourself in so many ways, whether you're calling it that way or not. When you keep putting yourself in those situations, so I hate to keep harping on that, but it is what it is. It's been a factor, and I can't imagine how Shane Beamer and Mike Shula and Lonnie Teasley and all those other guys feel about it, because they're probably pounding their heads in the wall trying to figure out how to get past that stuff.
Expecting a close game this weekend against Kentucky. Again, the line now down to 5.5. One thing, though, I got to knock on wood. I don't want to jinx these guys. I don't want to be that guy. But one thing that has been pretty good so far this year has been the special teams. I know Shane pointed out a couple of things this week that, he wished would have been a little bit better last week, maybe a block and stuff like that. But, if you get into a maybe could be some rain. We don't know in the forecast on Saturday night. But if you get into a sloppy slobber knocker type contest, punters and kickers have overall this year done their job, Hale, for South Carolina. So that is a positive, at least through 4 games after replacing literally everybody. All right. On the recruiting front, and we're going to let you go tee off here. Who is expected in town this weekend off the top of your head, at least?
Yeah, so probably the biggest name that I know of at this point is Trey Segarra, the running back from Burns, he was at the Virginia Tech game. He was at, I can't remember if it was the South Carolina State Vanderbilt game, but he's been one of those. He was at one of those.
It's getting a little choppy. I'm not sure what in the world happened there. It might be on our end. Could be on your end. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. It started happening.
Ooh. Yeah, you're in the underworld. Somebody has sucked you into the underworld. I don't know if we need to zoom him out and zoom him back in. We can see you, but the audio is choppy, unfortunately. Maybe try to close him out and bring him back up, Hale, or I'm sorry, Phil, if we can potentially do that. We'll get try to get an update here. How about now? Maybe not yet. All right, it's 10:55. We'll try to get Hale back in the next minute or so. We still got a couple of minutes left in his segment, and then we'll get to the top of the hour where Perry Orth will be joining us, and then we've got Mike coming in as well. We've got our Fab Five coming up in just a little while. Full disclosure, I have not even looked at the Fab Five this week, so I'll have to do a little bit of research during the breaks to try to get a 4-1 or 5-0 weekend in here. I think I was 3-2 last week. If I are you there?
Yeah, you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's breaking up on us. But we'll let you sign off. You got to get out. You're probably late for your tea time. You're sending the bug.
Now it's 11:30, so I don't know what the deal is. Technology's not cooperating.
No, it's okay. Good stuff as always, though, man. We'll let you run on that note. We'll get you back next week, hopefully talking about a win.
Sounds good. Appreciate y'all, fellas.
Thanks, buddy. There you go. Hale McGranahan with the bigspur.com.